Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun, enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Sack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Today is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and we are going back to Dedham today. Going back to Norfolk Superior Court for a hearing on the Brian Walshe case. And my understanding is that I think the whole thing is going to be on Zoom today. I think the attorneys are only going to appear doing on Zoom as well, but I've got the Zoom up, so hopefully we are going to be able to take a look at it. There was a hearing last week on this case, and it was really interesting because they were talking about the federal investigation with regard to the John O'Keefe matter and the Karen Reed case. And there was some confusion about whether that federal investigation was over. And a lot of people sent me a clip that people had clipped on Twitter. I did not see Ronnie on Court TV, no. But we're here to talk about Brian Walshe today, so we can talk about that later. I was just watching Vinny's show, his Tangent podcast, and I got mad, so I had to turn it off. But it was funny because Will went in there and gave him $20 and said, listen, Vinny, I know you don't want to admit it, but just you have to admit that Karen Reed is being railroaded. And then he said a couple of things, and he was kind of like, well, yeah, I said that, I don't think it's fair, and I don't think she should be tried on counts 1 and 3. She should only be counted on count 2. So it was funny that Will got in there with his $20 super chat to force Vinny to answer that question. But he's not talking about Karen Reed on his podcast either today. He's talking about something else like Koberger. But yeah, I'm going to come back today later and talk about Karen Reed because there are a couple of things that dropped today. And I'm assuming that more things are going to drop, right around the 5 o'clock hour. So I'd rather just go on once instead of twice for Karen Reed. But today, let's talk about Brian Walshe. So what was interesting about that hearing earlier, right now anyway, for this show, is that last week is that they were talking about the federal investigation. A lot of people clipped it and put it on Twitter that the judge said the federal investigation is over. What the judge said is if the federal investigation is over, and then if you go on to listen to it in the next 5 minutes, the district attorney for Norfolk County, who's trying the Brian Walshe case, gets up and says, we've been told by Leah Foley that the investigation is still ongoing. So it's like people only clipped, what they want to see and what they want to hear. And that's not exactly what was said during the Brian Walshe hearing. So that's crazy. This had originally been assigned to Judge Cannoni. So Judge Cannoni was also supposed to hear the Brian Walshe case. But they took her off this case, and they specially assigned a judge who I really like. She's another woman. Her name is Judge Frenier, and I like her a lot. That's what you thought you heard too, right? She said, if the federal investigation, but the closed captions didn't pick up the if part. Well, we could all tell what she's saying because we have common sense, and we could extrapolate back. I've got these sleeves on this dress, and they're really bugging me because they're just swiping on my legal pad and I don't like it, but oh well, too bad, so sad. Judge Prenier, and she last week, I think the hearing was in Middlesex County. So I don't know. He's going to be tried in Norfolk County unless, he gets a change of venue. And, Michael Proctor was the lead investigator in the Brian Walshe investigation and the investigation into the murder of his wife, Ana Walshe, which happened allegedly on January 1st of 2023. And so this is interesting. Let me think about it. I don't know what the hell's going in the water in Norfolk County, around January, but Sandra Birchmore was murdered early February, right, of 2021. And John O'Keefe was murdered January 29th of 2022. And then Ana Walshe was murdered New Year's Day, January 1, 2023. Proctor was the lead investigator in the Brian Walshe case. The Norfolk County DA's office has since come out and said, we are not calling him as a witness. We're not calling him. So now they're fighting to get, all of the internal affairs investigations on Trooper Proctor and all of the, I think the cell phone records have already been turned over. But it's just so interesting because I was reading the Commonwealth's supplemental opposition to defendant's motion for Rule 17 summons because for records from Massachusetts State Police Division of Standards and Training and Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability. It's the longest motion title ever, but this is the way they do it in Massachusetts. And so they're trying to get all of these materials relating to Michael Proctor, and they reference the Karen Reed case a lot in their papers. What's also interesting about this is that the defense attorney for Brian Walshe is one of our new favorites, Larry Tipton, who defended Penny McGee, who through no small feat, because boy, that medical examiner was dug in on the Penny McGee case, achieved an acquittal for Penny McGee in a bench trial in front of Judge Cannoni. And we watched that together, and it got no press. Nobody was talking about it. And we could not turn away from that case. And we were so happy to see Penny McGee acquitted because Penny McGee, if you don't know, I'll tell you, Penny McGee was on trial facing 20 years in prison for the alleged murder of her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz, who she was living with at the time because his rich brothers, who are very well connected, coincidentally, had her evicted from the house she was living in with her children because they owned it in a trust. Her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz, dropped dead of a heart attack in the foyer of the home that she was living in with him after she had had a verbal argument with him. There's some conflicting testimony by Zuzi, the daughter, who was estranged from her mom and hated her mom. And in fact, Penny McGee wasn't even allowed to come to the house if Zuzi was home or Zuzi was out of her bedroom or whatever. But Zuzi, you could tell, was a very kind of angry witness and for whatever reason hated her mother, probably blamed her for the divorce or whatever. There was some conflicting testimony about whether or not Penny McGee shoved Andrew Savitz before he fell and died of a heart attack. And it was determined at autopsy that he had like a 90% occlusion of his carotid artery, except the ADA for the Norfolk County DA's office kept calling it a carotid artery, and it was like nails on a chalkboard for us. Not only did he have a 90% occlusion of his carotid artery, but also had had a stroke 6 months before. He had a lot of pre-existing conditions that led to his death. His death was not caused in any way by any physical altercation that he may or may not have had with Penny McGee, although it is undisputed that they did have a verbal argument before he dropped dead with a heart attack. So we watched this trial in shock and horror. And then we watched in shock and horror as Judge Cannoni acquitted Penny McGee of all charges. It was wild. It was crazy. The medical examiner was so dug in on this. Like, she was of the opinion, first she ruled it undetermined, the death. Then she ruled it after a couple of months. I think it was maybe 3 months. She ruled it a homicide. And boy, did she have some reasons. What had happened here? She had Oh, for Pete's sakes, hold on. She had a lot of reasons why she thought that this should be a homicide based on some, medical examiner standards and stuff. That, if two people are in a room and one of them dies, then, the other person's responsible. Does that sound familiar to you? And the other interesting thing about that, oh, wait, passcode, hold on. Wrong numbers. I'm putting them in the wrong numbers. Is that at the autopsy, when it was conducted by Rebecca Dietrich, also present at the autopsy was Trooper Jeff Kikowski, or Kitowski. I don't know how, I think it's Kitowski. You may remember that name because in the investigation into the murder of John O'Keefe, when Proctor was texting with his buddies, Fanning and Bukhenik and DeChico and Kitowski was the one, DeChico was the one who said when they were talking about Proctor not being able to get them to change the cause of death in the John O'Keefe autopsy from undetermined to homicide, Trooper DeChico said, "You should have let me and Jeff do it." You know who Jeff is? Oh, Jeff Kitowski. He was in the room during Andrew Savitz's autopsy. Yeah. Funny how all of these people are involved in this investigation, isn't it? Kind of, but not really. Just a little. Right. Law and crime is here, but they can't connect. We'll hide them because we're just going to want to see what the courtroom is. Yeah, you didn't know. So you didn't know. It's incestuous. It is so incestuous. And it's crazy. Rookie move. Yeah, rookie move. You should have had me and Jeff do it. Right? All right. I'm muted. Free Billy Tibbetts. Free my boy Billy Tibbetts. Yeah, rookie move. Should have had me and Jeff do it. Thanks for your super sticker. Judge Bev, the laughing stock of the world, is here. Thanks for your super sticker. Oh, my snark tank. How I love you so. You guys make me laugh. Greg says, I swear this whole town's legal system is turning into its own cinematic universe. It is. It definitely is. And you know what's interesting too here in this Brian Walshe case? On top is here. Thank you for being on top of the super sticker. Is that in the Brian Walshe investigation, Trooper Proctor recorded the interviews that he did in this case. He recorded them. They pulled surveillance video. They pulled ring camera footage from neighbors. And to this day, Ana Walshe's body has never been found. It's a no-body murder case. But he did Google a lot of things, such as how to dispose of a 107-pound woman's body if you really need to, and some other incriminating searches on his child's iPad, I believe. And, Commonwealth is going to have a hard time saying that Brian Walshe's Google searches are accurate and the timestamps are accurate, when out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying in Karen Reed's case that Jennifer McCabe's 2:27 a.m. Google search is not accurate because she didn't Google it until some 6 hours later. What are we doing? We're waiting for the court to come in the Brian Walshe case. Yeah, it was his kid's iPad, right? No, timestamps mean. Oh, there's Larry Tipton. Love him. I love him. Penny McGee's a lawyer.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Larry, we could hear you.
Yeah.
I hope he's not on a private client call. Can you guys hear?
Yeah, I think she was just asking about, whether we wanted to cooperate or something.
Larry, mute yourself. This could be privileged, what you're saying.
Alrighty.
Hannah, we're watching the Brian Walshe hearing, Hannah. It's in the title. I'll scroll it along the bottom for the latecomers. It's the persecution of Brian Walshe, who probably really did do it. But, the thing is, they're going to have problems because Proctor's the lead investigator. And, Proctor's a D-bag, maybe, in my opinion. So, it's time to take a little breather from the Karen Reed case for at least an hour while we watch this hearing. But I do love Larry Tipton. I reached out to Larry Tipton, actually, and I asked him after the Penny McGee case if he would come on the show. And he did appreciate the coverage that I did and we did, and you guys who paid attention. And he said, I just, I'm not really comfortable like speaking in public. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, outside of a courtroom, I'm just not really comfortable. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. But really, I would love to have you on the show. But, I totally understand why you can't. And also because, Brian Walshe is coming up. So I will, I'll allow it for now. Still waiting. I always thought that lawyers should be called waiters because, we just wait around a lot. I mean, you could go to court really, and you could wait hours for your case to be called, especially in Brooklyn. I practice in New York. So you could go to Brooklyn. There could be a really long calendar and you could sit there for hours. It was such a waste of a freaking day. Such a waste of a day. Oh, Penny followed you on Twitter. I love that. I did. I was talking to Penny. I'm going to try and get Penny on the show, but I wanted to give her some time to decompress and to, get a chance to get her life back for the couple of years that she was so wrongfully persecuted as well. But she did say she was also a Karen Reed supporter. So 2 women in Norfolk County who were put through wrongful persecutions, in my opinion. Oh, hey, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. Nancy says, I'm in the minority. I don't think a man on house arrest wearing an ankle bracelet. Brian Walshe, yes. Thanks for pointing that out. I forget to mention it. So Brian Walshe was already on house arrest for something else from a federal court proceeding in which he tried to sell some fake Andy Warhols on eBay. Can't make it up. And so he was wearing an ankle bracelet. And Nancy says, I don't think he did it. She had a whole other life in DC that was never investigated. And that is true. But I'm here to tell you, because I have some papers on this. Bukhenik flew down to DC to investigate or to do an interview with the paramour that Ana Walshe was allegedly, well, it's confirmed, having an affair with in DC. So you know what, Nancy, you might be right. And based on the fact that Trooper Proctor is the lead investigator on this, it's crazy. Who knows what they may get excluded. And also, it has been said that Norfolk Sheriff's Office is unable to accommodate Zoom today for Brian Walshe, and that Attorney Tipton waives defendant's presence. And so it's going to be on Zoom. And so we're here waiting for it. But if you did watch the hearing that eventually came up on the YouTubes last week, Brian Walshe got a haircut and it looks like somebody cut his hair with a hammer. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Like, what are they doing? Do they have like a barber in Norfolk County Jail? Do they have a barber? I also remember that when Aiden Carney went to jail, I think that he was in the same jail as Brian Walshe, right? Yeah, it is twisty. It might be a little twisty. Maybe someone else did those Google searches on his iPad. Because, I mean, if Trooper Proctor seized it and, Garino was also involved, who knows?
Hey, Tipton, can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay. Have you been in contact with any of the ADAs?
Yes.
I'm the ADA. I can hear you as well.
Oh, you can hear me. All right. Sorry, I couldn't tell from the list. All right. Can I have the ADAs show their video, please?
Hopefully you can see me, Assistant District Attorney Ann Yass.
Can't see the judge.
Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you. So both sides are represented then, correct?
Right.
All right.
I think this is the law clerk, the clerk of Judge Frenier. ADA has her name up on the screen as Ann Yass, or Y-A-S. Here we go. This is Judge Frenier. Watch and learn, people. Watch and learn.
right, this is Commonwealth versus Brian Walshe, docket number 2382, CR 00091. Will the parties identify themselves to the court and who they represent, please?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant District Attorney Ann Yaz for the Commonwealth.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Larry Tipton for Mr. Walsh, who we waived his presence for today's hearing.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I appreciate that because I guess they had a shortage of personnel at the facility today. So they couldn't accommodate the Zoom request, unfortunately. So when we last met, I think we set this up as a sort of status on the DNA, defense DNA, Bodie expert. I did see by email that Clerk Sannel sent me when she asked me to sign the order that I hadn't signed at the last hearing, or if I signed it, it didn't get docketed, that gave me a little bit more information in there that Bodie was closing their lab at the end of April, which is good news for us, I suspect. But who wants to bring me up to speed with what's going on and what, if anything, you need me to address today with regard to that?
I can give you a brief summary, Your Honor. Attorney Tipton and I have been working on this for the past week, and we actually have pretty good news, I think, for the court. And that is, if I'm giving you a status update for both labs today, one is Bodie and one is also the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab. So
Thank you.
There are two different outstanding lab issues that we had. The first is with the MSP Crime Lab. And the defense signed their exhaustive testing form on 2/28, the day after our hearing. And they asked that Dr. Laken be their representative at the lab. So the lab is
Dr. Lincoln?
Laken, Laken.
Thank you.
And the lab is limited when a defense has a representative, but they were able to coordinate a date that Dr. Laken was already at the lab, so on a different case, and they're able to batch the cases together. So the testing will be April 15th of this year, and then the report would be expected on April 30th. And it appears realistic based on a request of the defense that discovery be provided on or about May 15th. And it appears that they will be able to do that. So the lab has just asked that any defense discovery motions be provided as soon as possible so that they can begin to assemble the necessary materials. And Attorney Tipton and I spoke by phone earlier today, and he said that he and his expert will work on that and hopefully have something for me by next Friday. The end of the week should be good.
For my own education, what is it that's happening there that needs to happen? What kinds of materials and things are being tested there on that date?
There is a final round of DNA testing from the original case materials that were found from both the dumpster and from the house and from the car. And two of those materials were QLIM. There's a bandage that's being tested, a trunk mat, and the head of a hatchet. So those materials can be tested using the DNA protocols that are available at the State Police Crime Lab. Two of those items were QLIM, so we needed the authorization.
And again, for my education, where are those, so bandage, trunk mat, and the head of a hatchet, and where are those, were those items taken from?
They were taken from different places. One was taken from the Volvo at the house, and two of them were taken from the dumpster area where the Tyvek suit and other things were also found.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that seems to be a good schedule, reasonably tight, and gets us where we need to be going. How about Bodie?
We also have pretty good news from Bodie as well. So the Bodie renovations are not beginning until the end of April. So after court on the 27th, the four attorneys all had a conference call with Bodie together at the Middlesex Courthouse. And we were able to secure the last date before the closure of the area, which was the only date that they still had available that was realistic. So Dr. Lakin was kind enough to work out his schedule so that that would also happen for the defense. April 21st is the date that's been assigned, and the testing should take approximately a week according to Bodie. So the defendant then asked about the timing of discovery, and we've had joint emails with Bodie. And it's our understanding that the report and the case file, and in Bodie's practice, the report comes with the case file, which also includes the electropharograms. And that will be ready 2 to 4 weeks after the testing period, which starts April 21st. So realistically, that would be mid to late May that we would have both the report and the initial case file for the defense. And then 4 to 6 weeks after that, the discovery packet with additional information is available unless we expedite that. And if we expedite it, then it's 4 weeks. Our office has agreed to expedite that, so we will go as fast as we can. And those final papers, that final discovery should be in mid-June, would be the expected time with the expedited process. The good news is that the defense, first of all, will already have the information from their observer, Dr. Lakin, and they will already have the case report, the case file, and the report. So they will have the specifics on this case. So I have asked the defense to fill out the discovery request information for what needs to be expedited and what other additional information they want besides the basic discovery packet. And Mr. Tipton has agreed to provide that to me after speaking to his expert by the end of next week with the information for the State Police Crime Lab.
Okay. So let me first say that I appreciate all of the report, but I also appreciate your efforts, Attorney Tipton, I assume to coerce, that doesn't sound like the right word choice, but to encourage your doctor, Dr. Lakin, to be able to be available during the time that Bodie was available, because obviously that was important to us achieving our timing goals that we've jointly agreed to. So I appreciate whatever efforts you made to get that done.
Thank you, Judge.
What do we, anything that we need to talk about today?
No, the only thing is, I agreed to that order where we have to come up with the authorization for funds no later than next Friday, and I'll just be sending by email a funds motion that is intended, and it'll state in the affidavit, that it's intended to cover just the observation-related costs.
Sure.
I'll get that to you, to the court early next week.
Okay, and just so that you know, I'm sure Clerk Nagengast will get me whatever comes to him. We're still going to be in the same building, but as of April 1st, I'm technically moving. Well, I am not only technically, I'm physically moving to a civil session here at Middlesex. At the moment, that's where I think I'm going, subject to any editing by the chief. But I'll be in Civil D, which is courtroom 620. And the clerk now is just changed. Paxtus. The new clerk's name is Josh Paxtus. Can you spell that?
Pakstis. It might be Joshua.
But of course, you know, if you get anything to the regular clerks in Norfolk, they'll send them along. But just so that if you need that information, you have it. You can, don't do anything special. Just do what you've been normally doing. And I've been getting everything that you've been filing. I just want you to know physically where I am.
All right, thank you. I think that's it.
All right. Well, this was a breeze, and I'm thrilled that that all worked out with Bodie. And boy, I guess we were pretty lucky that we're the last people in before the renos.
Yes.
Definitely.
So kudos to all your efforts on that. We'll see you next one. I don't have the calendar before me, so I know I'm seeing you in May for the 19th and the
I have the calendar, Judge.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, April 25th, I believe, is the next date that we're going to be together for the hearing with the attorney.
April
All right,
7th, there's a
that's right.
hearing on
I have it written
suppression.
down somewhere, even if I don't
no,
remember
it's
it right now,
rescheduled.
on a Friday afternoon. So I'll see you then, and have a great weekend to both of you.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Wow. Oh, she was the judge
All right,
for.
that was good news.
That was good news. She was the judge for Christina. I want to pronounce that Ricci, but I know that that's not the way that she pronounces, and I can't remember how she pronounces it. But don't go anywhere because I want to look at some papers. For those of you who are not familiar with all of the players in this case and how they connect to the Karen Reed case, we need to take a look at some papers. It also is interesting to me. They're also using Bodie Labs, and I think that is the go-to lab of the Commonwealth. And remember, or at least in Norfolk County, because remember how long it took to get those results on the Karen Reed case from Bodie Labs? A really super long time. But also you might be interested to know that the court approved the motion. He's got a public defender. So Larry Tipton is a public defender who's in private practice. So I guess for like felony murder cases, they assign private counsel, same as they do in Suffolk County, New York, on Long Island. And there was a motion to cover the fee of the observer to go to Bodie Labs. And remember how they sent Karen Reed's defense team an enormous bill for the observer to go to Bodie Labs? They wanted something like $22,000. Olivia, maybe you remember how much it was? Well, the taxpayers are paying for this here. I think this judge is only sitting in Middlesex for the time being, but the case is going to be heard in Norfolk County. That's where the trial's happening. 20K. Yeah, they wanted 20K. Penny was eligible for a public defender, and he agreed to take her case as a public defender. So there you go. It's like $120 an hour. That's how much they make. Mass Dad knows. So that is crazy. They make half the amount that Hank Brennan makes. He's making $250 an hour. Yeah. So they paid the observer fee, and they pay for experts. So she's going back to Norfolk County, and that's where it's going to be. All right, let's take a look. These papers are interesting, so I want to take a look. It's going to help some of you who are not as familiar with this case become a little bit more familiar with the case by looking at these papers, which are filed on, I think it says February 20th. And this is the Commonwealth supplemental opposition to defendant's motion for Rule 17 summons. They're looking for all of the defense is looking for all of the information on Proctor from the MSP and from the Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability because of everything that was discovered in the Karen Reed case. I don't know why it's being heard in Middlesex and then being tried in Norfolk. I don't know, because it was specially assigned to this judge when it was taken away from Judge Cannoni, and I don't know if she's like moving. I don't really know. Cheech, it's a good question, but I do know that he's being tried in Norfolk County, unless they move for a change of venue. But Turk tried that, and they were like, yeah, no. Turk was like, yeah, there's so much publicity on my case, and so I need to move to the, the county where I was a world-renowned robotic surgeon. That case happened in Dover, where he allegedly, but confessed to strangling his wife and dumping her body in a pond with rocks in her yoga pants. They tried to move, change venue on that. And also because the Karen Reed case is going to be going on at the same time, and all those people are going to be outside the courthouse, and it's going to influence our jury. And the judge in that case was like, yeah, no. So there's that. Maybe she has to finish her docket first. Yeah, I really don't know the answer to that question, but I think, because that courtroom is obviously not in Norfolk Superior Court, because any of you who have been inside the court know that the Norfolk Superior Court is very historic, and the courthouse is very historic, and the main courtroom is beautiful. The ceilings are gorgeous. It's crazy. All right, so let's take a look at this opposition from the Commonwealth. And they're saying, yeah, we disagree. The defendant has incorrect claims that he's entitled under Rule 17 to records of the Massachusetts State Police and the U.S. Attorney's Office held by the Internal Affairs Division of the MSP. And they say the defendant's request must be denied because by his own admission, he can't meet the standard of showing police misconduct in this case as required by Commonwealth v. Wanis, Rather than addressing the legal standard, they say the defendant generalizes that group bias, which need not be based on proof of specific instance of misconduct in the particular case, exists. Notably, the defendant does not explain the meaning of group bias in. Hold on one second. Because I don't want to interrupt the stream, and I really would prefer not to have any breaking news in the chat, and I will cover this after. But after I just reviewed the papers on Mark Betterow to be admitted pro hoc vice this morning, the judge has denied it. The judge, Canoni, has denied Mark Betterow pro hoc vice admission in the Karen Reed case. My head might explode today. That's how much it might explode. Yeah. I'm going to cover that later. Let's try and stay on topic because I knew someone was going to break it in the chat. Mark Betterow also represents Aiden Carney, so maybe some of you don't know about it, but we'll go over that in due time. Back to Brian Walshe for now. Please hit the like button. Then they go on to say, in contrast to the defendant's written submission at the January 8th, 2025 hearing, the defense made an unsubstantiated claim that Trooper Proctor knew he was the subject of a federal investigation when he began an investigation into Brian Walshe. Relying on close proximity between two unrelated investigations, which we just explained were a year apart, the defense created a flawed and factually inaccurate narrative that Proctor, as well as some of his supervisors and perhaps some of his other colleagues, were under investigation at the time they were targeting or eventually targeted Mr. Walshe. The defendant relies on an incorrect factual timeline of events to support his claim that MSP personnel were aware of or the targets of a federal investigation. And that footnote 1 just refers to the FTR audio. And I forget exactly what that stands for, but in Massachusetts, the court reporter, like Madam Court Reporter in the Karen Reed case, speaks into like an athletic supporter. That's how it's recorded. Maybe it's for the record. Thank you. Thank you, Mazdad, for the record. So they have audio transcripts instead of, New York, we have old school court reporters who type on a crazy machine that nobody knows how to work unless you went to stenography school. And it comes up on like a ticker tape in like some sort of code. So they're referring to that transcript. And then footnote number 2 says that this was said at the January 8th, 2025 hearing in Middlesex Superior Court. Thank you. Thank you, Al Dente. I know I can't do two things at once. I wish I could, but I just can't. And I feel like we need a little bit of a break today until later when I can get more outraged. I feel it bubbling. And here's what they say the timeline is in the Brian Walshe and Karen Reed cases. According to, they say the timeline concerning the Walshe investigation is compiled from police reports. On 2022, and on January 29th, 2022, Karen Reed knowingly and intentionally caused the death of John O'Keefe. Well, that's what they're saying. They're asserting the following timeline. They assert the timeline, but they're saying Karen Reed knowingly and intentionally caused the death of John O'Keefe. On June 10th of 2022, Karen was indicted for the murder of John O'Keefe in violation of all of these statutes in Massachusetts. 2023. On January 1, 2023, Brian Walshe knowingly and intentionally caused the death of Ana Walshe at their home in Cohasset. On January 4th, 2023, Ana Walshe's employer, Tishman Speyer, which is based in Washington, D.C., asked the Cohasset Police Department to conduct a well-being check for Ana Walshe, who had not returned to Washington, D.C. after the New Year's holiday. Cohasset Police Detective Sergeant Harrison Schmidt met with Brian Walshe and recorded the encounter. They recorded it. See? Recorded it. That's Cohasset. Maybe they do things differently than Canton, but in Cohasset, they recorded it. Detective Sergeant Schmidt and members of the Cohasset Fire Department searched the pool at the Walshe family home. Oh, look, they searched the pool of 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway in Cohasset. I have questions. Why was the pool uncovered on January 4th of 2023? Or did they have to take the cover off and search the pool? Detective Sergeant Schmidt also coordinated with Customs and Border Protection to flag any international flights that Ana Walshe may have boarded. Exactly, Olivia. No, neither of those things have been proven. Thus are not true factual statements. Yes, that Karen Reed intentionally did this. Thank you for pointing that out. Motions in Lemonade is going to rage clean, and I will allow it. Okay. On January 5th of 2023, Cohasset police conducted a canine search for Ana Walshe, spoke with the owner of the Bar Method studio where Ana Walshe was a client, called local taxi companies to determine if any had provided a ride to Ana Walshe, and requested assistance from the MSP for a missing person investigation into the whereabouts of Ana Walshe. MSP State Police Trooper David DeChico and Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik went to the Cohasset police station. Trooper DeChico and Detective Sergeant Bukhenik interviewed Brian Walshe. The interview was recorded. You know whose interview they didn't record? Karen Reed's when they went to her parents' house in Dighton. Interesting, but not really surprising. Sergeant Bukhenik and Cohasset Detective Lieutenant Michael Lopes spoke with the defendant's mother and the defendant's 6-year-old son. After the interviews, Trooper DeChico and Detective Sergeant Schmidt, I don't know why I can't say Schmidt today, walked the residence with the defendant. The defendant consented to a search of his Volvo automobile, where the police located a receipt from Lowe's Home Improvement in Weymouth. Yes, thank you, Liz Swift. We've already discussed it. Thank you, though, for giving me a super chat to distract everyone. Thank you. Yes, we know better was denied. We've already talked about it. Thank you. We're going to talk about it after this. I promise you. I will come back because there's other filings, and you can bet that there will be more filings before close of business. I will also point out that Yannetti only filed the supplemental affidavit on Betero this morning, and then right quickly there's a decision on that. So thanks. But we're trying to stay on topic with Brian Walshe right now because I need a break. I think we all do. It's Friday, you know there's going to be droppings. There always is. So, you know, might as well do them all at once. But after the okay, so the defendant consented to a search of his Volvo automobile. I don't know why he would have done that unless he dismembered her and took her body parts away in a different car. Where the police located a receipt from Lowe's Home Improvement in Weymouth. Am I pronouncing that right? Weymouth. Dated January 4th of 2023. Arrangements were made for the Walshe children to be forensically interviewed on January 6th of 2023. Investigators viewed Ana Walshe's cell phone records that Cohasset PD received from Verizon under exigent circumstances, which showed her phone to be stationary at the Walshe residence from December 31, 2022 through January 2, 2023, when the phone was powered off. So they were able to get Verizon records under exigent circumstances. See, it can be done. Can be done. On January 6th of 2023, a command post was established at the Stop and Shop supermarket. Can you imagine? A command post was established at the Stop and Shop supermarket in Cohasset, where teams included MSP Special Emergency Response Team, the CERT team, and K9 units began searching for Ana Walshe because, you see, that is what, thank you, Weymouth, thank you, Jay and Hull. That is what the CERT team does. That is their function. They search for missing people. They do not typically search for evidence. So the fact that they didn't need to search for John O'Keefe, they knew where he was. He had passed away by the time the CERT team got involved and came to 34 Fairview is wild to me because they should have called crime scene services. Brian Walshe canceled the forensic interviews for the children. Sergeant Bukhenik arranged with the defendant's attorney, Tracy Minor, and then there's a footnote to tell us that Tracy Minor represented the defendant in a federal case, and that's the case where he was under indictment he pled guilty to one count each of wire fraud in April 2021. He was awaiting sentencing when this happened. He tried to sell some fake Andy Warhols, I think, right, on eBay. And also here it says, footnote 5, Trooper DeChico has been promoted to sergeant. What? Trooper DeChico has been promoted to sergeant. Remember, we just went over this before, so if you're just tuning in, I'm going to remind you, DeChico is the one who texted to Proctor, rookie move. You should have had me and Jeff do it. Meaning, have the medical examiner change her manner of death from undetermined to homicide on the John O'Keefe death certificate, which still to this day has not been done. Yes, Stop and Shop enters the chat again. Yes, they do. Maybe they asked the store for evidence grocery bags. Thank you, Scooter54. Well done to you guys. They know how to set up a command post, and they know how to record interviews. So far, we're learning. Brian Walshe canceled the forensic interviews for the children. Oh, and we're also learning that Trooper DeChico got a promotion. At some point after this case, which was in January of 2023. So Sergeant Bukhenik arranged with the defendant's attorney, Tracy Minor, and ADA Lynn Beeland for consensual searches of the defendant's cell phone and the cell phones and tablets of the defendant's 3 minor children. Again, he had an attorney, and it's wild to me that he would consent to these searches if he knew that he Googled such things as how to dispose of a 107-pound woman's body if you really need to. Right? How about no, get a warrant? Sergeant Bukhenik spoke with Hugh Dunleavy, Global Chief Security Officer of Tishman Speyer. Trooper Michael Proctor conducted a phone interview with Ana Walshe's ex-husband. There's Proctor. Enter Proctor. Detective Sergeant Schmidt and Detective Lieutenant Lopes interviewed a representative of Liberty Bank in Braintree regarding an account of Ana Walshe. So now they're going and pulling banking records. This is the way investigations are supposed to be done, in case you were wondering. Detective Sergeant Schmidt spoke with a person who recognized a photo of Ana Walshe. This civilian had met Ana Walshe at a nail salon in Hingham on New Year's Eve, December 31, 2022. Trooper DeChico and Schmidt and Detective Sergeant Schmidt conducted a recorded interview of a friend who spent New Year's Eve with Brian and Ana Walshe at their Cohasset home. Look, they're even recording interviews of friends. Isn't that crazy? Trooper DeChico retrieved video surveillance from a neighbor's house. A neighbor's house on the same street, Chief Justice Cushing Highway in Cohasset. Can you imagine going out and looking for ring camera footage around from the neighbors? I know it sounds crazy, but they did it. Maybe that's why he got promoted to sergeant. And viewed surveillance cameras at the Gulf Station in Cohasset. Wow. Maybe it's because they were looking for a missing person. I don't know. Trooper Matthew Dunn, remember him? Because he also testified, didn't he, in the Karen Reed trial? Collected surveillance video from Lowe's Home Improvement in Weymouth and from a home with a Ring video system in the vicinity of the Walshe home, another home near the Walshe home. Trooper Christopher Moore, I think he was also on the Karen Reed witness list, collected surveillance video from the Stop and Shop on Chief Justice Cushing Highway in Cohasset for January 1 of 2023. Could you imagine? On January 7th of 2023, Sergeant Bukhenik and Sergeant Eric Perez of the MSP Violent Fugitive Apprehension Section traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with Tishman Speyer representatives. They sent Bukhenik to D.C., which reminds me that yesterday when we covered the Aiden Carney hearing, what I forgot to tell you when we were doing a little story time about who Natalie was. Yes, Equestrian, thank you for the breaking news. We already know, we've talked about it. Thank you. We're going to talk about it again later. Fanning, I think it was Fanning, flew to California to interview Natalie in that case so that they could try and indict Karen Reed and Aiden Carney on conspiracy to intimidate witness charges. So I guess Bukhenik gets to travel all over. I mean, but that in that case, it was Fanning, right? Wait, no, Tully. Tully, thank you. Alexi's middle finger, thank you. I knew I was getting it wrong. Tully flew to California to interview Natalie so that they could, yes, try and indict Karen and Aiden on conspiracy to commit witness intimidation charges. And it pays to be polarizing, says breaking news. The Sun will set today. Thank you. No, it was Tully. It was Tully. Moving on from everyone trying to tell me that Betero was denied because we already know. We've talked about it. We're going to talk about it later. Somebody said in someone else's chat that I went in yesterday. Oh, yeah. After I sent all my entire cupcake audience over to Uncivil Laws channel to talk about the federal papers on Karen Reed, there was someone in the chat complaining about me and how I treat my audience like kindergartners. So everyone, it's snack time. Go get your snacks out of your cubbies. Get your snacks out of your cubbies. Circle around let's do circle time. We're going to do circle time now. They sent Yuri Bukhenik to Washington, D.C. to meet with Ana's employers at Tishman Speyer. Wait, was that her employer? Because they also met with her boyfriend. The following additional investigation was conducted in D.C.'s search of Ana Walshe's automobile. Sergeant Bukhenik and Detective Lieutenant Lopes collected evidence from Ana Walshe's D.C. townhome because she also had a second residence in D.C. And Sergeant Bukhenik and Sergeant Perez spoke via phone with a friend of Ana Walshe who had gone to Massachusetts upon learning of Ana Walshe's disappearance. They're doing all kinds of investigation here. On January 7th, 2023, investigators began to corroborate information from Brian Walshe's locations according to his cell phone records starting on January 1st, 2023, when it was determined that Ana Walshe had last been seen in the early hours. MSP Trooper Stephen, here's a name we haven't seen before, Stephen Goldbranson viewed the video in Swampscott, Mass, near the Whole Foods Market. I mean, they're just pulling video from everywhere. And then it says, footnote 7, the defendant's mother resided in Swampscott. Trooper DeChico reviewed video from Shaw's Supermarket on Chief Justice Highway in Cohasset. Troopers Dunn and DeChico later collected video surveillance and a receipt from Walgreens next to the Shaws. I mean, Stop and Shop, Whole Foods, Walgreens, Lowe's, they're getting video from everywhere. Trooper Kakowski, footnote 8, who has been promoted to sergeant. Well, that's 2. How do you get promoted to sergeant in MSP? Keep your mouth shut. Snitches get promotions. I mean, snitches get ditches. And if you don't snitch, if you can keep your mouth shut, maybe you get a promotion. So Kakowski's been promoted to sergeant. DeChico's been promoted to sergeant. And those are the 2 who in Swampscott. Thank you, Swampscott. Swampscott? Okay, Swampscott. I'll allow it. And so Trooper DeChico and Trooper Kakowski have both been promoted to sergeant. Those are the 2 guys who they would use when they needed a medical examiner to change the manner of death from undetermined to homicide, right? Rookie move, rookie move. That's how you get a promotion. Yeah, I'm calling it out. Swampscott. Okay, I got to remember that. I mean, it took me a while to get, now I can't remember. Bill Ricca? Is it Bill Ricca? Sometimes it's Swampskit. I say Swampscott. All right. Potato, potato. I mean, the only people who are going to be happy if there's like a mini series that is made into like, if Hollywood makes like a real mini series, not like a documentary, fake recreation style documentary talking to like people who really never even knew John O'Keefe and shit like that. But like if they make like a real miniseries with like real actors like they did in The Staircase, which by the way, if you haven't seen The Staircase, it was really good because it was Tony Collette and the other guy who still freaks me out. I can't imagine him in any other role now. And I forget who it was. Colin Firth, maybe. The only people that are going to be happy about that is every bald actor in Hollywood who can get cast in this miniseries because they're going to need a lot of bald guys. Exactly. Colin Firth. Yeah, I can't look at him anymore. I can't. He freaks me out now because he played that part just a little too well. Moving on. So Trooper Kikowski, who's now a sergeant, and more collected video at the ExxonMobil gas station in Cohasset for January 1, 2023. Trooper Proctor, DeChico, and Detective Sergeant Smith interviewed Brian Walshe at his home with his attorney present. The interview was recorded. The interview was recorded. Imagine that. Trooper Kikowski spoke with a notary who met with Ana and Brian Walshe on December 17th, 2022 about the sale of property in Revere. Detective Sergeant Schmidt spoke with a friend of Ana Walshe's about an extramarital relationship Ana was having with a man in the Washington, D.C. area. Ana Walshe failed to meet the man for a scheduled date on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. Detective Sergeant Schmidt and Trooper Proctor interviewed one of the Walshe children's teachers. Detective Sergeant Schmidt interviewed a friend of Ana Walshe's in Washington, D.C., who disclosed that the defendant and the defendant's mother had been contacting her looking for Ana Walshe. Detective Sergeant Schmidt also received an email purportedly from Nigeria demanding payment as Ana Walshe had allegedly been kidnapped for ransom. Well, I want to know more about that email. They received an email purportedly from Nigeria demanding payment as Ana Walshe had allegedly been kidnapped for ransom. Kate Mick says, and this is fantastic advice. Thank you. I'll take it under advisement. Pronunciation here is a very simple rule. Think of the laziest way to say something and that'll be correct. That's hilarious. Love you guys so much. Yeah, right. Colin Alessi. Colin Alessi says, wait, what next? Trooper Proctor gets promoted. Trooper Paul gets promoted. Maybe. Although I think he might not be involved in the secret. I think maybe he's out of the chain of secrets and the chain of fools. Maybe he might be in the chain of fools, but he might not be in the circle of trust. Let's say. Love my flip flops. Thank you so much for the 50. Who says thank you for guiding the way through the mire of legal corruption. You look especially beautiful today. Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve you. Thank you also to Mary for becoming a member. For Paul's Court hand signs. You see how people change their usernames here to go with the trial? Remember this? Steph Sia, thanks for being a member for 3 rounds. Love you, Melly. Shout out to Jeanette as she's here too. Hey, Jeanette. Hey, girl. Jeanette and Steph are here. Welcome. Lori Life 360 is here too. Missed you, girl. She's gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for always being such a kind and generous supporter of the channel. And Chrissy Mel, who thinks my Boston accent is on fire today. Thank you. I'm working on my dialects. Thank you for the 10. I appreciate you. Talk time with Amy Boston became a member. Thanks, Amy. As did, we are still here. Tracy Walker gifted 5. Thank you, Tracy, so much. Thank you. Love you. Mike B from the 413. If it comes out here that Proctor and crew discussed Ana's appearance or health on texts, even that about Brian Walshe, should it be evidence? Do you think if he was looking for nudes of Karen Reed, he might have been looking for nudes of Ana Walshe? I would submit to you, probably. Have you seen pictures of Ana Walshe? She's stunning. This was way before he was caught doing that, way before he knew that the feds had his text messages. And so, yes, it should be evidence 100%. And that's what they're arguing here. They want all of Proctor's stuff because of his bias in the Karen Reed case, or his alleged bias in the Karen Reed case. And they want whatever the feds have if it relates to Ana Walshe. Bev's albuterol is here. Thank you for your super chat. According to the Commonwealth's turn of phrase, does this mean Chris's son, Colin, could be considered a balloon? well, that's kind of funny. But yesterday, if you were with, was it only yesterday that we watched the Aidan Carney hearing? The Robert Cosgrove, the special whatever he is, assistant district attorney for the Commonwealth, kept calling Colin Albert Colin for the entire hearing, and he must have said Colin 10 times, and it was all that I'm sure that Aidan and Betterow and Bradel could do not to just bust a gut. Thanks, Christine, for becoming a member. And Alessi's middle finger is here and says, you covering Massachusetts trials is shedding so much light on how the Karen Reed case is so corrupt. Thank you, teacher. Oh, you're welcome. Are you hot for teacher? Joke. But I will say that I did one day fall into the rabbit hole of the witch trials, and there's crazy, similarities. Crazy similarities. And I thank you so much for your super chat. All right. This Nigerian email, I need to know more about. And also, this trial is not scheduled to start until October 20th of 2025. So there's that. On January 8th of 2023, in D.C., Sergeant Bukhenik and Sergeant Perez met with the lawyer for the man who Ana Walshe was allegedly having an extramarital relationship. No, it is absolutely not normal. Heather says, why have all these special prosecutors? Is this normal? No. The reason they had to have special prosecutors in Aidan Carney's case is because of the conflict that the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office has because their involvement in the Karen Reed case. And then, so they assigned Ken Mello to be the special prosecutor, and then he has apparently fallen ill, and so Cosgrove has taken over. It's not normal. They hired Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan is a hired gun. There is no conflict in the Karen Reed case. However, none of the 50 attorneys in the Norfolk DA's office apparently wanted to retry this case. That's what we're told, according to, I think, the Vanity Fair article. It's like the hot potato case of Norfolk County. Nobody wanted to touch it. So they had to go outside the office and hire a special prosecutor in Hank Brennan to try this case for an initial cap of $75,000, which we now know is going to be turned into more than $250,000. Right. It's not normal. It is not normal. And it is not normal to go outside and hire a prosecutor when there is no conflict. That should tell you a little something about Norfolk County, right? Yeah, and Mass Dad says Cosgrove was once a great judge. My, the mighty have fallen. I don't find him to be a mean-spirited man. I think he was dealt, a crappy case, right? And look, he's probably retired and bored and he wanted to do something, so they gave it to him. But yeah, this is what he's doing now, right? Talking about Colin. I mean, it's insanity. All right, here we go. On January 8th of 2023, Trooper Moore collected video surveillance evidence from Home Depot and Lowe's stores corresponding to location information obtained from the defendant's cell phone records and statements he made in interviews. The video appears to depict the defendant making large purchases. So he went to Home Depot and Lowe's. Why couldn't he just get everything at Home Depot? He gonna go to Lowe's? Was Home Depot out of hatchets? I don't know. And Tyvek suits? Other troopers also collected or viewed surveillance video appearing to depict the defendant consistent with location data information from the defendant's cell phone after January 1, 2023. Look at all this investigative work that they're doing. It's blowing my mind. Other troopers also collected or viewed surveillance video appearing to depict the defendant consistent with location data information from the defendant's cell phone after January 1 of 2023. Trooper Dunn and Kakowski, there he is again, reviewed surveillance video showing dumpsters at the Claremont Apartments in Abington. Okay, this is where his mom lived, and this is where it gets interesting. I don't want to spoil it for you, so I want to just wait for it because it's a good one. Trooper Kakowski collected video from a CVS pharmacy in Danvers. Or should I say Danvers? where the defendant stated he had been. The video and receipt show the defendant purchasing 5 bottles of hydrogen peroxide. Was he going to dye his hair blonde? Or when he did his Google searches, was that something that could be used to dissolve a body? Because he did Google search for that too. Troopers Moore and Kathy Prince. Wait, was Prince involved in, didn't she do an interview of someone in the Karen Reed case? One of the percipient witnesses, perhaps? Visited the Chatham West Apartments in Brockton to review video surveillance. It's for blood cleanup. Thank you, Nerdy Dog Mom. Blood cleanup. Thank you. Well done. I think you're going to also use it to dye your hair blonde, right? Or to take the color out of your hair. Prince interviewed Jen McCabe. Thank you. Thank you, LOL. No tampering. Clerk Jim Clown. Oh, you changed your name. I'll allow it. Trooper DeChico contacted a manager at Waste Management for access to the Abington dumpster, but learned the contents had already been incinerated. Trooper Dunn and Cohasset Sergeant Garrett Hunt interviewed Ana Walshe's friend who traveled from Washington to Massachusetts upon learning of her disappearance, and also interviewed the landlord for the Walsh residence at 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. So they were renting that house. Troopers Proctor DeChico and Detective Sergeant Schmidt again interviewed Brian Walshe at his home with his attorney, Tracy Miner. The interview was recorded. Okay, that's 3 interviews with Walshe, and all of them were recorded. Are we keeping track? Trooper DeChico contacted a nanny employed by the Walshes by phone. Trooper Proctor obtained a search warrant for the Walsh home, which was executed by multiple troopers. Okay, pay attention if your mind has wandered. Trooper Proctor obtained a search warrant for the Walsh home, which was executed by multiple troopers, including crime scene services. Crime scene services went to collect the evidence, not the CERT team. Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, Lieutenant Sean Fanning, Trooper Nicholas Garino, DeChico, and Cohasset Detective Sergeant Schmidt. The only one in the list of names I just read to you who was not involved in the investigation of the murder of John O'Keefe is Schmidt, and that is because he's with Cohasset. All the rest of them are there. And you mean to tell us that John Fanning was demoted during the Karen Reed trial to being the head of security for the courthouse, but had no contact with the jurors? The defendant was arrested for misleading a police investigation. Quincy District Court. So they needed to hold him on something. So that's what they arrested him for. Misleading a police investigation. On January 29, 2023, Sergeant Bukhenik spoke by phone with Ana Walshe's sister. Trooper Prince observed a forensic interviewer interviewing the oldest Walsh children at the Norfolk Advocate for Children. The children were brought by the defendant's mother at the insistence of the Department of Children and Families. So the defendant, meaning Brian Walsh's mother. Sergeant Bukhenik and Trooper Proctor interviewed the Walsh family nanny. Troopers Connor Keefe, Garino, and DeChico continued to review the data extracted from Brian Walsh's cell phone. Oh yeah, that's another thing. The other thing is that Brian Walsh's cell phone was extracted and returned to him within 24 hours. Just a reminder that it took them over a year to extract Aiden Carney's cell phone, allegedly. And I think he still has not received his phones back, his physical phones, correct? Yes, this was a good investigation. It's a shame they didn't do that for John O'Keefe. Thank you, Nerdy Dog Mom. I'm saying the same thing. Yuri always interviews the women, says Tennessee Cousin. I saw that post too. And it seems to be something right. There may be something to that. Maybe. Adrian says, everything in Massachusetts is a conflict now because Proctor is the lead MSP on just about every high-profile case in Massachusetts. Every defense attorney wants his cell phone records, but there are protective orders. Trooper Dunn collected surveillance video from South Shore Tint in Weymouth. Trooper Kakowski secured video of an individual placing a trash bag in the dumpster near Vinin Liquors in Swampscott and learned that dumpster had been taken to the Lynn transfer station for incineration on January 4th of 2023. Trooper Kakowski, along with Swampscott police and MSP personnel assigned to the Essex District Attorney's Office Detective Unit, went to dumpsters located at the Landing apartment complex in Swampscott. These dumpsters had not been emptied. I mean, if you're gonna do the Boston accent, you kind of have to do it throughout because it can't just keep flipping back and forth, you know. Representatives for Republic Service took the dumpsters to the Republic Services transfer station in Peabody for a search to be conducted. That's got to be the worst detail ever, is the dumpster diving part of being a police officer. Oh, they did dumpster diving, not dumpster diving, but they did a trash pull outside Richie Schiffer's house too. Remember that? For the rubber ducky gate? Yeah. Including MSP crime lab personnel, joined Trooper Kakowski and responded to the waste transfer station and secured items of interest, including Ana Walshe's vaccination card and items with red-brown stains. MSP Sergeant Mark Farioli responded to Covanta CMAS, Southeastern Massachusetts Resource Recovery Facility located in West Wareham, Mass, as the contents of multiple trash bags that could contain items of evidentiary value in multiple dumpsters in the area of Abington and Brockton had been taken to Covanta CMAS for processing. So these bags were found in multiple dumpsters in many towns. Yes, thank you, KPT, for reminding us that Walshe had a GPS monitor under order. But yeah, he had a GPS monitor on his ankle, but he was allowed to go to his mom's, the school, and stores. Thank you. Boogie Down Brockton. Thank you, Mr. Crosby's orphaned methodology. CPU Monbon says you're doing a wicked piss of job with a Boston accent. I'm Boston. What's funny is I've been told I sound like a New Yorker whenever I travel. That's funny. Peabody, not Peabody. All right, I'm learning. Thanks, Gina. Thank you, Gina. Peabody. On January 10th, 2023, Trooper Dunn and Sergeant Bukhenik interviewed Ana Walshe's former co-workers at the Intercontinental Hotel in Boston. Were they females? Because look who's involved. And the co-president of Royal Jewelers in Andover, where the Walshe family had previously purchased jewelry. Detective Sergeant Schmidt interviewed kindercare employees where the Walshe children attended daycare. Troopers Keefe and Prince collected video of a Volvo and a man disposing of trash at the Hingham Shake Shack on January 2nd, 2023. Well, not looking so good for Brian Walshe. They also collected video at the Kohl's department store in Hingham for the same time frame. I've lost track of how much video they're pulling from how many different locations. They also interviewed the manager of Wireless Zone Verizon in Hingham about a new device activated on the Verizon network on January 1, 2023 for the Walshe plan. Oh, Brian, did you get yourself a new phone? On January 11th, 2023, Sergeant Bukhenik and Detective Lopes visited stores which Brian Walshe visited after Ana Walshe's disappearance. Troopers Prince and Keefe met with representatives of Liberty Bay Credit Union about transactions made by Ana Walshe in 2022 at the Hingham branch. Trooper Keefe met with loss prevention personnel for Home Goods and TJ Maxx to secure video of a Norwell store for January 2nd and 4th, 2023, showing Brian Walshe buying area rugs, candles, towels, and bath mats. I don't know. I mean, if you want to talk about consciousness of guilt evidence, this is more consciousness of guilt evidence than, some phone calls between Karen Reed and Aidan Carney. or between Aiden Carney and Yannetti and Jackson. Am I right? Detective Sergeant Schmidt communicated with Metro Police in Washington, D.C. regarding previous incidents of DV to Ana Walshe by Brian Walshe. Detective Sergeant Schmidt also interviewed an upholsterer who was asked via text by a person at 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway on January 4th to reupholster a window seat cushion from that same house where they lived. Oh boy, he's toast without Proctor involved, says Teresa. Thank you, Christy. Let's stay strong for Karen. The truth will prevail, dear friends. Every silver lining has a touch of gray, you know? On January 12th, 2023, Trooper Keefe met with the CERT team to conduct a search of a Cohasset dumpster. Sergeant Schmidt spoke with a painter who had been contacted by Brian Walshe. Okay. He's contacting maybe a window seat reupholsterer, a painter, and he was buying some bath mats, area rugs, candles, towels. A couple of days after Ana went missing. On January 17th, 2023, Trooper DeChico transported items from the MSP crime lab to the office of the chief medical examiner. January 18th, 2023, Troopers Proctor and Dunn met with a civilian looking for Ana Walshe after Ana Walshe's disappearance and collected knives from the vicinity of Cushing Pond in Abington. The knives appeared to have no evidentiary value. On January 19th, 2023, Sergeant Bukhenik spoke with a civilian who reported seeing Brian Walshe in Peabody on New Year's Day or after, and another person who reported a person asking on January 1, 2023 about the trash pickup schedule at the Claremont Apartments in Abington. Refresh my recollection, but that's where his mom lives, right? Trooper Proctor spoke with a civilian who reported possibly seeing Brian Walshe's vehicle on January 1, 2023, but this was determined to be incorrect. Did his mother live at the Claremont Apartments in Abington? I think. No, she lived at the other apartment buildings because I know she lived at one. I know she lived in an apartment complex. And here's how I know, because Swampscott, mom lives in Swampscott, so there was another apartment building dumpster where he allegedly dumped stuff. Because here's the thing. Thank you, freeloader Woodchuck, and you're not freeloading here. And they may not address it here, but in the other papers that we read in one of the prior streams on this, because there's a whole playlist on the Brian Walshe case, we learned that I think it was Garino, if I'm not mistaken, was able to tell that on one day, Brian Walshe went to his mom's apartment and his phone placed him inside the building, the apartment building. And then another day, he went to the same location, but his phone GPS data, location data, put him near the dumpster. Could you imagine that? They could pinpoint his location data from being the dumpster to inside the apartment, right? But John O'Keefe never went in the house. Tell him the guy never went in the house. Right? So there's that, because they were able to make that distinction in the investigation into Brian Walshe. On January 20th, 2023, Detective Sergeant Schmidt interviewed a friend of the Walshe family about the learning of the disappearance of Ana Walshe as he spent time with the defendant after the disappearance. The interview was recorded. Look at that. Look at that, would you? Then they go on and on. January 23rd, they got a receipt and a video from Lowe's in Danvers, which was discovered from the forensic extraction of the defendant's phone. He got a receipt and videos from Stop and Shop in Swampscott for January 1. Bukhenik, district attorneys Greg Connor and Lynn Beland, who has since flown the coop, and a victim witness advocate spoke with Ana Walshe's mother by phone. I think she was in, where was she? Hold on. Serbia. Clark and Proctor, February 15th, spoke with a business associate who described marital strain between Ana and Brian Walshe. They also discussed statements the defendant made, including that Ana Walshe had to leave Cohasset for a work emergency in Washington, D.C. March 28th, Sergeant Schmidt confirmed that Ana Walshe had not taken any international flights since January 1, and you can see everything that they did to investigate this. Brian Walshe was indicted on March 30th of 2023 for the murder of Ana Walshe. On April 24th of 2023, troopers Proctor and Prince traveled to Bodie Technology in Virginia to deliver items for testing and canvassed Ana Walshe's Washington, D.C. neighborhood, interviewing neighbors. The troopers confirmed that Ana Walshe had enrolled her eldest son in a local school in Washington, D.C., but Brian Walshe informed the school that he had not given permission for enrollment. The troopers also interviewed co-workers of Ana Walshe, Tishman Spire. Her co-workers confirmed that Ana did not need to return to D.C. on January 1 for a work emergency. Yeah, that's what Brian Walshe told them. On April 27, 2023, Brian Walshe was arraigned in Norfolk Superior Court. May 3rd, 2023, during a pretrial hearing in the Commonwealth versus Reed. Here's how they're tying all this together. Reed's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, publicly commented on the existence of a federal grand jury. The argument here by Larry Tipton, the esteemed counsel of defendant Brian Walshe, is that Proctor knew he was under federal investigation at the time he was investigating Brian Walshe, and the Commonwealth in these papers is trying to say, no, he didn't. So we shouldn't have to give you stuff and things and stuff. On May 3rd, 2023, Scott, you didn't have to give me a super chat to tell people that. You're a moderator. Thank you, Scott. Should I leave it up there? I'll leave it up for now. Thanks for your 5. I'll send it back to you later for pizza. And they attach Exhibits A and B, which is the Commonwealth's opposition to defendant's motion for sanctions and for DQ of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office filed in the Commonwealth v. Reed, and the memorandum and decision of the court signed by Justice Beverly Cannoni. And then footnote 10, which says, Karen Reed and her attorneys of record communicated directly with then acting U.S. Attorney Joshua Levy and the U.S. Attorney's Office prior to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office ever learning about a federal investigation. See Exhibit A. On March 28th, 2024, the Norfolk Superior Court, Judge Beverly Cannoni, held that the correspondence between the Norfolk District Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office suggests that while the Norfolk District Attorney's Office was aware of the existence of the federal investigation and that some witnesses had been subpoenaed to testify before the federal grand jury as of May 2023, it had little to no information about the investigation and was unaware of what, if any, evidence the U.S. Attorney's Office had obtained. Indeed, the letters written by the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to the U.S. Attorney's Office reflect an ongoing effort by the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to obtain information about the federal investigation so it could produce such information to the defense and comply with its discovery obligations. Yes, remember Morrissey? We have Brady obligations. We've got to turn it over. We need to know. We need to know what you're investigating, what you have. We've got to turn it over. And now Brennan is talking out of the other side of his mouth saying, Brady? What Brady? What Brady? You know, no big whoop. We didn't know about the videos. We didn't need to turn them over. We didn't know that they were exculpatory. No big whoop. They're not exculpatory. How would they be exculpatory? No big whoop. It's mind-numbing. On May 9th, 2023, Norfolk District Attorney's Office sent a letter to then acting U.S. Attorney Joshua Levy. This letter outlined the DA's office, the DA's recent knowledge of the existence of a federal grand jury and the fact that 2 civilian witnesses had received subpoenas. May 18th, 2023, DA Morrissey sent a letter to the Office of Professional Responsibility for the Department of Justice, see Exhibit D. Footnote 11, which says, as detailed in the correspondence with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the DOJ, The Norfolk District Attorney initially raised concerns about the impartiality of U.S. Attorney Rollins and the unprecedented use of federal power to interfere with a state homicide investigation. Oh, remember? He was so, Rachel Rollins hates me. That's the only reason they're doing this. Rachel Rollins hates me. And then somebody got fired, and this is a personal vendetta. Mhm. On June 1, 2023, DA Morrissey received a response from the Office of Professional Responsibility. June 12th, DA's office received a response from then acting attorney Joshua Levy. June 21, 2023, sent a letter to the counsel for the DOJ, and all of these things are attached as exhibits. August 3rd, 2023. You can read this at your leisure if you like. And then November 22nd, 2023, DA Morrissey sent a letter to the special agent in charge of the Boston office of the FBI, see Exhibit J. For a reading of all of those letters, you can go to my Karen Reed pre-trial playlist, in which it is called something like Morrissey's Letters or something like that. And then moving on to 2024, January 16th, 2024, Norfolk District Attorney's Office, along with counsel for Reed, were contacted by the U.S. Attorney's Office to discuss the possibility of disclosing information in the possession of the DOJ pursuant to federal regs. And that was the 2E request. January 18th, 2024, Attorney David Yannetti, on behalf of Reed, represented to the Norfolk Superior Court that DA Morrissey is well aware that he's the target of a federal investigation as a result of his conduct in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed case. That's funny because we were talking about that hearing the other day, which was on Zoom, I think. And Hank Brennan misrepresented to the court in the Karen Reed hearing that Karen Reed and David Yannetti appeared on court TV and said that DA Morrissey is well aware that he's the target of a federal investigation. And guess what? No, they didn't appear on court TV. Court TV happened to broadcast the Zoom hearing. We all know that. Did Hank Brennan get up in court yesterday? Was it only yesterday? And correct the record and tell the court that? No, he said he was going to go find the court TV clip. Ridiculous. On January 18th, 2024, the U.S. Attorney's Office publicly refuted Attorney Yannetti's representation by stating, "We are aware of today's hearing in Norfolk County Superior Court in the Karen Reed matter. In connection with this matter, at no time has the U.S. Attorney's Office named any person or entity as a target of an investigation to anyone." See Exhibit A. On February 21, 2024, subject to a federal protective order, Counsel of Record in Commonwealth v. Reed received over 3,000 pages of federal materials. And there's also a video on that. It says feds release, I think the footnote was like feds release over 3,000 pages to the defense. Oops. March 4th, the MSP, Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability, notified Trooper Proctor that he was the subject of an internal affairs investigation, purportedly based upon his text messages in the investigation of Karen Reed. Footnote 12 says, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office has no knowledge nor basis to believe that any other members of the Massachusetts State Police or members of the District Attorney's Office testified before a federal grand jury in the investigation surrounding the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Wait a second. So, no knowledge nor basis to believe that any other members of the MSP or members of the DA's office testified before the federal grand jury. Was Proctor the only one who testified in front of the federal grand jury? I don't know. Nobody else was called in? I find that hard to believe. This was just filed like 10 days ago. Furthermore, neither Trooper Proctor nor any member of the MSP or Norfolk District Attorney's Office received any notice that they were or are a target of federal investigation. Huh. And then they go on with some more facts. On February 1st, 2024, Trooper Proctor testified before a federal grand jury. I already read that footnote. February 21st, subject to a federal protective order, Counsel of Record in Commonwealth v. Reed received over 3,000 pages of the material. It was discovered that the U.S. Attorney's Office had impaneled a federal grand jury in November of 2022 to investigate the facts and circumstances resulting in John O'Keefe's death. So, did we know that? That it was convened in, the federal grand jury was convened in November of 2022? I mean, that's within a year. Did we know that, anyone? Anyone? Because Proctor was not even called to testify until February 1st of 2024. Huh. I didn't know it was convened in November 2022. That's a lot earlier than I thought it was. Thanks, Nerdy Dog Mom. No, Kristen says we didn't know that. This is new information, and this is important information because I don't remember when Alan Jackson got involved, but it might even have been after this. We know that Aidan Carney did not start reporting on the John O'Keefe, Karen Reed debacle until something like April 2023, right? So long before Aidan Carney got involved, the federal grand jury was convened in November 2022. So that's interesting. And Rick Hamill says, rumor has it that Scanlon went to the feds right away. That's wild. Sandra Birchmore married, this is the first time hearing this date. April 18th of 2023 was when Aidan Carney first started reporting. The feds were involved before Aidan Carney was involved. That's crazy. 7 months after John died. Well, 11 months really, right? He died in January, so November, maybe 10. That's good information we didn't have before, as far as I know. On March 4th, 2024, MSP Officer of Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability notified Trooper Proctor that he was the subject of an internal affairs investigation, reportedly based upon his text messages in the investigation of Karen Reed. It's Exhibit L. Thanks, Iceman. I got to take a note of that. November 2022. On April 16th, 2024, a jury trial in Commonwealth v. Reed commenced. Oh, we know. June 10th and 12th, 2024, Trooper Proctor testified and was subject to cross-examination. Yeah, we know. Here's the official transcripts of his testimony. Trooper Proctor's testimony was video streamed and available from several online sources. Oh, yes, we know. One of them is me. Mine. Trooper Proctor appears to be a white male. Karen Reed has also been video streamed. During court appearances, Karen Reed appears to be a white woman. What? What does that have to do? What does that have to do with anything? During Trooper Proctor's testimony, references were made to text messages obtained by federal investigators. September 6, 2024, Commonwealth filed a notice regarding State Trooper Michael Proctor's work phone data and noted that the Commonwealth does not intend to call Trooper Proctor to testify in the Walshe matter. September 24, 24, the U.S. Attorney's Office provided Norfolk DA's office with 56 pages of text messages, which it described as Proctor text messages made public in the Reed trial. Those text messages were received in redacted form and provided to this defendant. The original text chains, including communications not publicized at the Reed trial and received prior to the Reed trial, remain subject to the federal protective order. So this is what the federal protective order is protecting. December 20th, 2024, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office made a request pursuant a TUI request for federal records from the investigation into John O'Keefe's death that could be relevant and material to the criminal proceedings against Defendant Brian Walshe. Encompassing grand jury transcripts, any statements of law enforcement, any material that would demonstrate bias of any investigator involved in the investigation, and any cell phone records of law enforcement. See Exhibit N. M. December 26th, they made another TUI request. February 11th, the U.S. Attorney's Office of 2025, that's just recently, responded to the TUI request stating, as an initial matter with respect to my office's investigation into Mr. O'Keefe's death, I am not aware of any statement by state or local law enforcement in the possession, custody, and or control of my office of the FBI investigation that concerned the investigation of Mr. Walshe for his wife's murder or the Walshe murder case. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office is not aware of any pending federal indictments regarding the homicide of John O'Keefe. Therefore, they make a legal argument under Lampron and Mitchell. I'm going to fast forward through this a little bit so that you can review it at your leisure. Says they say the burden is even higher for internal affairs records. They don't want the defense here to be able to get Michael Proctor's internal affairs records, even though we know that he was biased in the Karen Read case. But it does say the Commonwealth provided the defense with the internal affairs reports with sustained findings of Detective Lieutenant Tully and Bukhenik pursuant to Rule 14. But we don't want to give you Proctor's stuff. That you haven't shown a good faith basis for it. And we don't think we should have to give it to you. The evidence of bias on which the defendant relies appears to be the inappropriate text messages about the defendant, Karen Read. Yeah, well, would it strain credulity to think that he's got bias against other beautiful women? Not bias against other beautiful women, but searching for nudes of other beautiful women, perhaps? Inappropriately? Anyone? Yet the defense fails to explain or show any connection between Trooper Proctor's text messages and the Read investigation in this case. I think they're fair game. In other words, he has failed to show such purported bias or past conduct carried over to the defendant's case. Well, we don't know until we see it, right? How are they going to know until they see it? I mean, Brian Walshe may be guilty as hell, but isn't he also entitled to a fair trial with non-biased troopers? Significantly, the text messages presented in the Read matter were obtained by the federal authorities, but in response to a TUI request, the U.S. Attorney's Office stated it was not aware of any statements by state or local law enforcement in the possession, custody, and control of the U.S. Attorney's Office or the FBI that concerns the investigation of Mr. Walshe for his wife's murder or the Walshe murder case. Therefore, the defendant's argument of widespread bias is not supported by the record. Okay. I don't know that this has been ruled on yet, but I wanted to give you guys a basic outline of how Proctor is involved in the Walshe investigation, how it could screw up the Walshe case now that they have told the defense they're not going to be calling Proctor. And they say the defendant has not explained how an awareness of a federal grand jury investigation would have compromised the investigation of the murder of Ana Walshe. I mean, I think the fact that Proctor didn't know there was a federal investigation would have made him be less careful. That may be the better argument here. I think Proctor is damaged goods. The defendant's comments about Proctor's disappearance does not further his argument. I got to find that. I got to find the defendant's papers on this because I only have the Commonwealth's papers. Proctor has not disappeared. Trooper Proctor has been suspended by the MSP and is subject of ongoing disciplinary hearings. Yeah, there's another one coming up in March. Oh, when is it? It's coming up soon. Nevertheless, Trooper Proctor's involvement in this case does not grant the defendant liberal access to internal affairs records. Well, you might want to rethink that argument. You should just give it up. As evidenced by the outline above, Ana Walshe's disappearance was investigated by multiple agencies, including Cohasset Police, MSP Detective Unit of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Yeah, and guess what? All of the people that we mentioned earlier were all involved in the Karen Reed case. All of them. Trooper, Fanning, DeChico, Tully, Proctor, Bukhenik, Dunn, Moore, Prince. Almost every single one that's been mentioned in your papers were involved. Where other officers were present for most of Trooper Proctor's work in this matter, the Commonwealth has a means to present its case without cumulative testimony from Trooper Proctor. That the Commonwealth alerted the defense to this decision sooner rather than later does not support the defendant's claim that he's entitled to IA records. Therefore, we don't want to give it to you. XOXO. Greg Connor, Assistant District Attorney. He's the guy who's going to be trying the Walshe case for the Commonwealth. March 10th for Proctor, I think. Somebody said. Let's go to the chat. Ms. Black 1909 says Dunn is also shady. Ozzy has video on him. Well done. Thank you. Colin Alessi, it's pronounced Bibberty. Bibberty. What's Bibberty? Scott, we know about better. I'll mailing and get it to you later. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What the duck? Funny. I went and looked for that episode of Court TV Brina was referring to, and it was actually the one you were on. Oh, with the she who may not be named. That's so funny. No, the one, oh, that's funny. But they did broadcast the Zoom hearing that day, and that's where he said that because I went back and looked at it. Mick Bev's Inferno. Thank you for today, Melanie. Managed to catch it live. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Proctor's hearing is March 13th in Framingham. Glamasuz is here with the details as always. Always. All right. Let's see. It is 3:30 right now. So I imagine that I am going to come back and talk about all of the things that happened that were filed, the more droppings that were filed, all of them. I'm going to do it though at 5 o'clock because then we will be able to get everything else that drops. And so let me set that up right now so that we can have everything all at once. And go over all of them together. And thank you guys for hanging in here and allowing me to give Brian Walshe's case some time because I think it's necessary. You know what? Let's do it for 4:30. We'll do it for 4:30 because that way we can get to see what else is filed by then. Okay. Okay. I just set it for 4:30. I'm going to transport you over there so you can hit the reminder bell so that you won't be late. And thank you, moderators, for keeping it classy in here today with everyone that wanted to try and break the news about Bettero. I will go over it at length, but I'd also like to talk to some people before I do that. So I can get some more insight into this ridiculousness. Let me redirect you. We will start at 4:30. 4:30, be there. When I hit end, it will transport you to the 4:30 stream. Bev doesn't work past 4 anyway, but the clerk's office might, Melissa, right? The clerk's office might. Back in an hour, everyone go get a break. Go get some hydration, get your popcorn, get your snacks, because we're coming back. Coming back. Maybe Bettero will appear. Maybe. Bettero has been denied pro hoc vice admission on the Reed case. It pays to be polarizing. Yes, we're going to come back and talk about it in 1 hour. I'm going to send you right over there. And in the meantime, stay cool, stay kind, stay classy, get your snacks, get your popcorn, get drinks, take deep breaths. And I'm going to come back. We're going to break it all down together. I love you with all of my heart. If I don't see you soon, I'm going to die. It's only going to be an hour. I'm going to transport you there now in 3, 2, 1. Peace.